So today we're going to take a look at OpTic versus Loud, a rematch of the grand final from Masters Reykjavik, because it was a crazy game. And of course it was a crazy game, because the last map was Split, and Split always goes to overtime, and it's always super close, and I don't know how or why that happens, but it always does, and this game was the exact same. And we'll start here with round number 4, OpTic on the attack and Loud on the defense. And actually, in this round, you can see that Loud have a bit of a B lean, but actually OpTic are going to go for a bit of a quick A play. As a team, as you can see. So that is exactly what happens, right? You get FNS and Victor here. They're just going to go walking up, and Victor actually just decides maybe he'll just walk up, right? Maybe this is something OpTic like to do. They like to see how much space they can get. And actually, Victor, after seeing Pancada there, does manage to get the first kill. And so you think, oh, Loud are in a lot of trouble, and they are. The only one saving grace for Loud here is that the spike was actually left back here for Crashies to retrieve from mid, and so he needs to ferry the spike all the way across, of course, but he is still quite far away, and that's going to allow Loud the time to get these rotations in, and mean that OpTic, as you'll see, have to, come back and try and help ferry the spike, essentially, back across. So you see the Prowler starts coming out there. You see that we've got Crashies kind of isolated here. He sends out a flash, and we're about to get a very clutch stun from Sassy coming out as that KO nade comes in. Really, really nice stun there on, and actually I think it catches 3 players, and they manage to get 2 kills from it. So we actually end up in a 4v3 in Loud's favor. We're going to get Marved pushing spawn here, trying to make a play. He does get 1, but gets traded, and now I just want to quickly talk about Les, and what Les is about to do, because he's just traded that kill, right? He's killed the guy here, and so one thing that you might expect him to do is to continue to push down here, right, and create this kind of pinch with his team and kill these final 2 players. But that is definitely the wrong decision, and this is something that Loud really struggled with on Fracture. The map before this is OpTic were able to win a lot of kind of 3v5s, 2v3s, these kind of situations, because they aren't afraid to just push spawn. They know they're in a disadvantaged situation, so in those situations you want to try and take a risk, right? You want to try and just even out the numbers, right? And so in this 2v3, Les does really well. He's just going to stay here and just hold this. And this is something that, as I said, they weren't doing on Fracture. They got caught with their knives out. They were running, not expecting fights. OpTic would push spawn and they die. But in this instance, Les is going to do really well, because you have to think about what OpTic are going to do, right? They can't push this way because it's too high, right? You can't go into heaven from here. They probably aren't going to go this way because they know that 2 people are there. So they're going to push the one where they know where 1 guy is, right? That's their best option. And so Les, as I said, he doesn't, get too eager or anything like that. He just holds, and he manages to find this kill right here. Really, really nice. And he gets them into a pretty unlosable situation where FNS doesn't have the spike. He's in a 3v1. They can come from multiple angles, and eventually they will manage to get this kill, Will Loud, as they come through heaven here. Really nice stun from Sassy to even out the numbers there, and they manage to win this round. And now let's come to round number 9, and I think in this round we're going to see a big problem that OpTic had on their attacking side, and it's to do with their comp, really. And I've talked about this multiple times, that if you aren't running Cypher or Viper on this map, it's just very, very difficult to take control of a lobby, and it was Ye's job, who was kind of, defaulting towards the side. Often on this map, right, you'll start with like a 1-3-1 because of the importance of mid on Split. But Ye really struggled a lot of the time, to try and just get control of this area. He was very often pushed back. It didn't often work for him too well, and we'll see that in this round as well. And really, the only time Ye was able to get control, and he did actually win them a couple rounds by doing this, was just, winning aim duels, essentially, was just, getting to as close as he could and then just winning a fight, which isn't really, super repeatable. It is Ye, so you might say that it is somewhat repeatable, because he does win a lot of fights, of course, but you'll see it in this round, and this was a bit of a problem, particularly early on for OpTic, before Ye just kind of started hitting shots essentially towards the end of the round. But you see they actually have the fade with him at FNS this time to try and help him out actually take this control, because he had been struggling with this control quite a lot, right? He just had really struggled with it, and he couldn't do anything, right? Because he has no utility to actually allow him to really do it. They actually use an Astrostar here, so they recall an Astrostar to allow him to get through this one and get in here. But you're going to see that Loud have some nice little protocols that as soon as Pancada sees him, does the suck, they send a Prowler out, they send a stun out, he has to leave again. And now you're going to see that Ye just isn't able to get past like this area, right? He just can never now get past that area. They can't really afford to recall another Astrostar. Maybe you see he's just trying to take fights again. They actually lose Marved here getting a bit greedy, trying to take an orb into a one-way. Gets a bit greedy there, and Les is able to get a pretty free kill on that one. He then sees them, he's able to push them back, the time is ticking, you see that there's kind of a bit of indecision, you see Ye still hasn't really made any progress towards A, they don't really have much progress towards mid, the time starts ticking down, it's not looking good for them at all, they have no smokes now at this point either, and this was a lot of kind of OpTic's attacking rounds in this half, is that without kind of, hero plays, it didn't look great for the most part. And actually the half ended 7-5, but I think everyone would agree that it did not look like a 7-5 half at all. It looked fairly dominant from Loud for a large part of it. So they actually try and use the Fade ult to give them some space, right? Because that's kind of, they're kind of running out of options at this point. So they send the Fade ult and they send Victor in here. But Victor decides that he has to try and, make a play, and he's going to go pushing that. Again, they're in a 4v5. He's going to try and make a play. But Sassy is quite ready for it, and he actually manages to find that kill on Victor there. They actually use that as a bit of a kind of bait fake, right? This is something that OpTic like to do, is leave these positions in lurks, right? Maybe where you're just standing at the top of the stairs waiting for these rotates to come in. Of course, Victor actually died there. They do start to go into A. You can see that Ye still hasn't made any progress. There's 14 seconds left in the round at this point. And yeah, this was kind of a big struggle for them. They try and leave FNS to cover off Heaven because, of course, they don't want to get reflanked from there. Crashies, obviously, with no time, has to try and plant the spike. Ye just has to run in blind. He dies, and they're going to manage to find that kill on Crashies as he's planting the spike, and we end up with a flawless round from Loud. And this was a lot, as I say, of OpTic's attacking side, where unless they did get kind of some big hero play coming out from someone, it really wasn't going that well for them overall. And now let's come to round 16, and alternatively to OpTic, Loud were actually running a Viper, which did allow them to do this kind of thing where you put the wall up here, you put the orb in here, right, and you can create big question marks in here, right? We saw in that clip earlier of Pancada jiggle peeking. Obviously, when this stuff is up, you can't jiggle peek, right? You don't know if anyone is in there or not, and that's kind of the big question that they wanted to create, and it was very powerful for them. And we're going to see in this round 16, now that Loud are on the attack, that Ye is basically going to get, a bit impatient with not knowing, and he's just actually going to go wandering, hoping to take just a quick aim duel as the Prowler goes past, but he actually loses that fight. Aspas is very ready for it, takes his head off, and they end up in this 4v5 straight away. So Crash is obviously in a pretty difficult situation, right? He throws out his nade, he throws out some flashes. Victor actually gets chased off by a Prowler as well, and they take early Heaven control, do Loud, and they get this early control. So a really good start for them. Then what's going to happen is Victor is going to run back onto the A site, but he's just going to lose that fight there against Aspas there, who now feels confident in coming into the site. Crashies is still there, but now obviously that they know where he is, Sadak just comes dropping in and manages to kill him, and now it actually is going to be a save from the other OpTic players as they get the spike down. And so, again, you start to see some of the values of just creating that question mark on A, that, it did give them quite a bit of control here, Loud, and I think in general they used it decently well, not the best I've ever seen, but decently well on the whole, and it definitely did, help them create more pressure, perhaps, from having the Viper. But now let's come to round 17, and I think that this is the big area where Loud need to improve, right? As they go into champions and whatnot, I want to see them improve in this instance, because the macro kind of tactical level of their game sometimes can be a bit faltering. It showed up on Fracture as well. And I think on certain maps like Ascent, where they're really good, it's fine, right? But on maps where perhaps they aren't as comfortable, like Split, like Fracture, sometimes those weaknesses do show up on the attacking side, right? And they start off this round absolutely fine, right? They smoke off mid here. They get a boombot into vents. They see it sees no one. They drop down as a pair here, the Fade and the Raze. And they're going to destroy the chamber trap nice and early, right? With like plenty of time left, they create this big question mark for OpTic. By destroying this trap, you're going to see that it creates a kind of a big problem for OpTic, and that with this Viper wall, right, now no trap there, this area is now a potential weakness, and Marv actually comes on the rotate because it is a weakness, right? And so they create that big question mark. And whilst they're doing that, they send the Fade Haunt in here. They see that FNS has a judge, right? So that's good info as well. They get a Seize Nade in there that pushes him back, right? So really great start. At this point in the round, I was like, okay, this is really good, right? Prowler to see that Heaven's clear. They get Aspas pushed up in this position with 46 seconds left here with Aspas in this position. He's got his Raze ult, of course. They have a ton of control. At this point, I was like, wow, what a great start to the round, right? Like, what an absolute perfect start for Loud. They couldn't have wished that this could have gone any better. Now, the next thing they need to do is, now that Aspas is pushed up all the way here and he has Raze ult and they've got full Heaven control, they needed to be thinking about, okay, well, we need to take B main, like, now, right? Let's get to B main now. Let's get, you know, Pancata pushed up in here. However you want to do that, right? He might just want to try it on his own if he's feeling a bit risky. You can use what, you know, you can bring the breach across and flash or stun, whatever, right? To try and get this control. But they needed to do that, right? But they're not going to. Right, and this is going to be the big problem, and what they really probably should have done here is, yeah, bring the breach over here nice and fast, get this B main control nice and fast so that you can get here early, right? Bring less through mid and have him like kind of maybe either watch mid or join these players here, because the thrust of your attack has to be with the raise, right? The main part of the attack has to be here, okay? Because he has the raise, or he's going to be first in. That's going to be where the thrust of the attack is coming from, and the second layer really should be coming from B main. But what you're going to see is that they just are really, really slow in getting into B main, and these guys just aren't ready. Eventually, you know, Aspas is like, well, let's go, right? And so he goes in, and, you know, he's going to get one, as you'll see, and die, and then Sadic's going to get left on his own. You'll see what I mean, right? So they get here. We got plenty of time left, right? They put this smoke down in heaven. That's absolutely fine. You know, I mean, they might even not have needed to do that because Aspas is here watching it anyway, right? So he is super pushed up. They might not have needed to actually use the smoke, and they do start to come into B main. The problem is, again, this needs to kind of be the thrust of your attack, right? Because Les has decided to come all the way this way instead, you know, that means, as you can see, Sadic is now worried about them coming back through vents, right? Because they haven't had that control in a while. And so you'll see it's just going to create some problems for them when they do start to execute. And they're going to start actually when this smoke decides to fade. They send in a stun. Aspas, you know, is ready, and he manages to get that kill. But the thing is, you see that they're not quite ready here in B main, right? So Aspas is maybe a bit ahead of the curve, but he gets traded out by Yay. But now Sadic has a problem, right? Like, this was meant to be the thrust of your attack. This is where you're kind of like coming in, right? But you see the timing is all wrong. Sadic's all on his own, and he's still very worried about this, right? Whereas if Les had come through here in mid, you know, and he's in here, he can just watch that for him, right? And he can charge in onto the site as well and kind of join and maybe trade this kill of Aspas. But because Les has come all the way around here, and because they're very slow into B main and taking this control of B main, now he's kind of just stuck, and now you've got like just a whole separate attack coming in, right? This is just like you've tried to execute onto the site once, and now you're just trying it again. And you see like part of the problems, right? That they started this round so well, they were in such a good position early on, but it's all going to fall apart, right? Sadic is going to die from behind. Eventually he tries to kind of like push up. He doesn't know which way to look still, and he is going to get killed by Crashies coming from vents, you know, which was what he was worried about the whole time. So now that they take care of that danger OpTic, now they just have to focus on B main because they haven't heard anything else anywhere there, right? So you see that they just can now focus all their attention on these three players who now have kind of their own take of the site, right? The timing is all off. And, you know, they're coming in like 10 seconds later after Aspas is already dead. And you just see that, like, those kind of, like, macro level of, like, right, we need to be taking B main with this now. Les, you need to come this way and do this, and you need to hold this for me. And like, for instance, you know, you just see that if Les comes here instead and just holds this, you know, this maybe is a very different round where Sadic trades this kill on Ye of Aspas. He probably gets a free kill on Crashies crossing through mid instead, right? And everything is a lot better. It's just these kind of like strategic level of what everyone is doing that I think sometimes can fall apart, fall loud. And now let's come to round 24. It's 12-11 to OpTic. It was of course a map that had to go to overtime because it's split. And well, this was a crazy round in and of itself. It actually starts kind of interestingly, right? Where both teams kind of send out a Prowler. Both teams are actually kind of going to give up mid. What's going to happen is they're going to send a Boombot in as well. Kind of, you know, create some pressure, create some sort of presence in mid. But actually, as you can see, OpTic kind of gave it up completely, right? So no one has really any idea what's going on in mid outside of this chamber trap. But as you can see, Loud are coming back and grouping up as A. And they are going to fade ult in onto the site and then just go off it, right? So they did this thing with the Viper Wall here and the Prowler. So that clears out this early lobby position for them, right? And now they're ready to go. In comes the fatal, in comes the nade. They start to come in. Aspas also has his ult as well. They actually get a really nice Astra Suck, and Ye's in here onto the site. But less, it's a really nice shot onto Ye, and they manage to get in onto the site after the Raze ult pushes Marved off as well. And so they're going to get the spike down, and they're going to get a Viper's Pit. We're going to get an Astra ult coming in from Marved, and so we have a crazy round, right? Viper's Pit on here actually is kind of helpful for Loud because, you know, this might be pretty difficult to you know, avoid with with the Astra ult here, you know, it makes playing this post plant a bit more difficult, but actually the Viper's Pit allows them just to kind of all stay here if they want to, right, and just play within the pit. And you can see we got Pancata just out here kind of watching the flank. So let's see how it goes for them. So they get the Viper's Pit down, in come OpTic, right, you can see that all 4 of Loud are kind of just in here in the pit, but Crash is about to throw a very important nade just into that corner, right, because this nade just comes into here, and this is going to push less. Crucially, it's going to push less on the Viper. He's going to get pushed out. In fact, I'll show you on the map. You could see it, that he's going to have to run out here outside of the, kind of the safety of this back corner, and straight into Crashies, who manages to get that kill. The pit falls. Trades start going back and forth. It's absolutely crazy. But we end up in this 2v1, but now it's the man that, you know, everyone else was here, right? So I think that OpTic just expect that the last guy has to be here as well, of course, but Pancata comes through the wall and manages to get that last shot. Very, very clutch from him, and it was a crazy, crazy, crazy end to regulation. And then finally, let's come to round 26, the round that ended it all. And, well, this is going to be a crazy round for one particular moment that I'm sure if you watch this game, you're all aware of. It actually starts with this boombot that comes into vents that they've been doing quite regularly, right? Sadak pushes up, and actually Victor's here on the rope. He shoots the boombot, and so his crosshair is in the wrong place. Sadak actually manages to get the first kill, so we end up in a 5v4 for Loud. But now Loud are going to pause, a guild-esque pause, as I think it might be come to known as, if Guild do well in this tournament and keep going further. And I think actually this pause cost them, right? Because they don't do anything. Now, this is fine to do for a certain amount of time, but we'll see at the end of the round. I think it does actually end up costing them. They're just a little too passive here and just let the clock tick down a little too far before they start to do anything, because they basically allow OpTic to, you know, guess the right site, and they basically allow OpTic to have all of their members there ready for when the hit comes in. So we get down to about 45 seconds or so, and now we're starting to see like there is some consideration to actually doing something, but the clock is still ticking, right? The clock is really still coming down, and so now with, you know, 35 seconds left, they start to make their progress towards heaven. They flash in, they do force Ye off that corner. The thing is, and this is the thing, right? Aspas threw a nade in here to get Ye off of that corner, but we're going to see about the most perfectly timed C's you could ever have that's going to catch Sadak. And what that means is that that nade that Aspas threw, Sadak goes down to 1 HP from the decay from the C's, and he gets hit by his own team's raised nade, and he's on 1 HP, so that's how he dies. Very unfortunate. Of course, the timing is very unlucky for Loud, but they come down, you know, with 27 seconds, and again, it's kind of the same thing where they don't fully have this B main control yet. They're kind of having to, you know, slowly kind of come into B main and take their time doing that as well, right? So we're down to now 20 seconds, and you see that there really isn't enough time now with this chamber trap still up in particular, right? Not destroying that, maybe a mistake as well, because it allows all of OpTic to be here on B, and so trying to execute onto this site, 20 seconds left with all 4 players here. I mean, this round is already over, right? There's still 8 people on the screen, but this round is already over, because this is just such a hard thing to do, right? When you have everyone here already. And that's exactly what's going to happen. It's going to be an absolute slaughter. As you see, he gets the first one on Sassy. That was a pretty important fight. Marved is able to get 2 because he's Marved, but even so, the chances of Loud winning that from that position was very, very slim. And, well, OpTic go on to actually go and face Crew. It seems like such a big game. It should be for more than just, you know, I guess it was for elimination. But OpTic just go on to face Crew, where they could also be eliminated today. So we'll have to see. But, yeah, what a crazy game. What an intense game. What a fun game to watch as well. Masters Copenhagen has been insane so far. Literally insane. I couldn't wish for a better tournament. I thought that Reykjavik was, you know, crazy in its own right, and it was. But Copenhagen perhaps has been even better. I think this is the most competitive tournament I've ever seen so far. It's been absolutely absurd, and I hope it continues.